Welcome, Lucy. Lucy has joined us from Rwanda. So thank you, my dear friend, joining from there. And with a very great and a very interesting topic on NLP and EI. And she is the master in that. And then we are very much fortunate to have Lucy with us. Over to Muskan to introduce Lucy and welcome her to take over for her session.
Right. After that super energizing session from Murli sir, now let's move to Lucy Skalquick. It's an honor to be introducing her. She's from Rwanda here, and she's a renowned international speaker, writer, and NLP coach. In her work, she focuses on women empowerment, diversity and inclusion, transformational leadership, and topics in personal and professional skill development, which of course includes emotional intelligence. She is a certified NLP practitioner from two boards, the American Board of NLP and the Association of NLP in the UK. She has over 18 years of experience and has also founded the Careers Women Network in Rwanda. As mentioned earlier, please use the chat box to ask your questions, and after the end of the session, I will be directing them to Lucy. So, here over to you, Lucy, for this 30-minute masterclass on NLP and EI.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I hope everyone can hear me. I want to especially thank Annapurna for this opportunity, and I also want to thank the previous speaker because he has made my life really easy by introducing the topic of the monkey mind, because NLP focuses a lot on the unconscious, which we can probably is what he meant with the monkey mind. So I really enjoyed your session as well. Thanks a lot for that. So yeah, today we're going to talk about NLP and emotional intelligence, a basic overview, and then also how I connect the dots and what I work with. So let's get right into it.
Thank
So
you.
it's an honor to be here, and let's dive into this. So I want to start with defining what neuro-linguistic programming really is about. And I found this this description, this definition on ANLP. So it's a literal translation of the phrase neuro-linguistic programming, and it's that NLP empowers, enables, and teaches us to better understand the way our brain, neuro, processes the words we use, linguistic, and how that can impact on our past, present, and future. And that's where the programming comes in. It gives us strategies for observing human behavior and learning from the best and worst of that. Another way to kind of define it is to look at this picture, because pictures say a lot more than words. So neuro is the nervous system processes how our experience via our senses. So we have our five senses, we have our sense of sight, we have our sense of hearing, smell, taste, and touch, and that's how we process information. That's how we, and then we give meaning to those perceptions. So linguistic is about. I hear some. Okay, yeah. So linguistic is about the communication systems that give our experience meaning: pictures, sounds, feelings, tastes, smells, self-talk. And then the programming is how we communicate with ourselves, so that and how we communicate with others to achieve our goals. I see there's a hand raised. Should we already go into that, or shall I just continue and we do the questions at the end?
Continue, Lucy. We can see it a little later.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So I have a poll to kind of interact a bit more. I have a poll about emotions. So yeah, this is the first question. How do you experience your emotions? Are they a source of annoyance to yourself? You find yourself too emotional? Are they a source of information, allowing you to get a glimpse of what's going on in your unconscious? Or are they a source of pride because people commend you for your empathy? So thanks. I see a lot of you are voting. And I see the audience here is very enlightened because let me not give it away. So yeah, so please participate if you haven't yet done so. How do you feel about your emotions? Are they, is it a bit?
67% have voted. Just give them just another 10 seconds more.
Okay.
Okay, we're closing the poll. Would lovely if everybody voted. Here are our results.
Yeah, that's what I that's what I said. Very enlightened audience, because indeed the emotions are the language of the unconscious. So knowing, being aware of your emotions allows you to better understand what is going on at the unconscious level. So that's and being too emotional, we will get into that, but it's that's something, usually it's not, anyway, we'll get into that soon. And a source of pride is also nice. If you have empathy, that means you can recognize emotions and you can relate to other people's emotions. So that's a good thing. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so according to neuroscience, our conscious cognitive activity is only 5%. This means that the vast majority of what's going on in our unconscious, what's going on in our brain is actually happening unconscious to us. So like I said, the language of the unconscious is emotion. And so being aware of your emotions will help you better navigate and understand what's going on with you at a subconscious or unconscious level. And so it's all about how we perceive the world through our 5 senses, and then how we give meaning to those perceptions. Now, if we move on to emotional intelligence, this term was originally created by Peter Salovey and John Mayer, but it became very well known when Dan Goleman published a book in 1995 under the same name. And it's defined as the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. And probably many of you have already seen this grid or this matrix. So in his book, Dan Goleman talks about the self and the social aspect of emotional intelligence. So where you recognize and are aware of your own emotions, so the self-awareness, where you regulate or manage your own emotions, which is the self-management, and then socially being aware of emotions in the room, in the people you're interacting with, so the recognition and social awareness, and then the ability to manage relationships and to manage and influence others through this capacity. So that if you're in that spectrum, if you're in that box, you can be very effective when it comes to leadership and a career. You'll be able to get people to rally behind your ideas and so on. So that's a very that's in a nutshell what Dan Goleman spoke about in his book about emotional intelligence. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of topics. So firstly, like I mentioned, the unconscious and emotions are strongly linked. So you might be surprised by a certain emotional reaction to something, but then it's interesting to dig deeper and to find out what does this mean, which past memory is coming up for you now to address and for you to feel the feeling and let it go, or to repress the emotion. So perceptions and meaning. So it's that I spoke about that. You know, you can do the same thing. We're all at this VEI summit, and we are listening to the same speakers and we're seeing the same slides, and yet we might come away from this with a very different experience. And so and that depends, because it depends on how we perceive and what meaning we attach to our perceptions. So no two people can observe or be in some have an experience and experience it in exactly the same way. So manifestation and embodiment. Their manifestation is really about actualizing your goals. It's about getting results in the physical plane. And if you're only focusing on the conscious mind and that cognitive experience that we're aware of, but if your unconscious is having very different programming, then you can't really achieve much. And so embodiment is that you that is the unconscious. So you have to influence the unconscious in the same manner to achieve the goal that you want. So it's not just about knowing what you want, but it's also about feeling and being and doing what you want. Repression and opportunities to transmute. So that's about our unconscious and our memories. And so heavy emotional experiences or incidents that lead to us repressing sometimes these memories. And then when something happens in your life and you're triggered by something, you have an opportunity to go back to that memory and to address it so that you can transmute it. And that's what I just mentioned. So that's also important part of NLP that looks at that. So the next concept is about beliefs, values, and purpose. So what most coaches work on are these topics, because the beliefs that we have influence what we think is possible. So the potential that we see for ourselves, that influences the actions that we take, and that then influences the results that we get. And that again then influences our new beliefs of how we think of what we think is possible. And so limiting beliefs are a great place to start when it comes to coaching, because these affect so much of what we believe we're capable of and then what we're actually capable of. Whatever you think you can do, you're right. There was this quote from, if you think you cannot do it, you're right. If you think you can do it, you're right. Because ultimately it's up to you, and it's what you believe, and that influences what you will bring to the world, and what the world will then receive and view. Finally, self-awareness and social awareness. We discussed this in this model. So in emotional intelligence, there's the two aspects of the self and the social awareness of emotions. So, but ultimately, self-awareness is more important than social awareness, but it comes hand in hand. If you master your own emotions more and you recognize what you are feeling, you can also be more understanding of others and more empathetic to others. Okay, so the third model that I want to discuss is this from David R. Hawkins. It's called the scale of consciousness. And this model is, it comes from his book, Power versus Force. And it discusses the different emotions and the vibrational frequency at which these emotions can be categorized. And so And he's done this through muscle testing, and it's very easy to do, and it's very it's culturally it's kind of universal. So he's tested this in many countries, and that emotion calibrates at that vibrational frequency. And so it goes from very negative emotions where you are contracted to very positive ones where your consciousness is expanded. And the middle line is around 250 neutrality. And so what you experience in life is very much aligned to where you are on this scale. So it's very important that you manage yourself to be able to climb this ladder. And this is a ladder, I might add, it's much more important than a career ladder. This is the ladder because it's relating to consciousness and life energy, life force energy, what's also called chi. Um, and there are ways so you can calibrate yourself and find out where you are, and there are ways to climb this ladder if you do certain things to address certain old memories of shame, of guilt, and so on. If you address certain things, you can climb this ladder. And so what you experience in the world is then very much related to where you are in the world and how you, your dominant emotion as you in your current life phase. So we all go during the day, our emotions can fluctuate. So we're not always at the same, but we have a kind of a dominant emotion that we're at for a longer time. Sometimes a very long phase in our life, sometimes it's just maybe a few weeks. And so that emotion kind of affects everything. It affects how we carry ourselves in the world. It affects how people are attracted to us, how certain experiences are coming in our life. It's a bit like a radio station where you tune into a certain channel, and then in that channel you have these sets of experiences. So for example, if you are on the planet right now with Corona and everything, we're all very much or many of us are experiencing fear. In that context, you'll have a dominant emotion that you're anxious, anxiety. You might be withdrawn a little bit from certain from activities and things in your life. Your life view is frightening, and your God view is punitive. You believe in a punitive God, a God that punishes. So on the other hand, if you're in so I calibrated the previous speaker and he's very high. So he's at 700. And so if you're in 700, then you're at the level of enlightenment. Your emotion is ineffable and you're experiencing pure consciousness. And your God view is the God that is in the self. So this is a kind of a map, so to see where you are in life and how to climb up. And I use it a lot in my practice. And so how to climb it then? Here's some tips. I mean, there are many ways of doing this, and that process is called ascension. And many ways of doing this is, for example, is revisiting traumatizing memories and letting them go. So you can revisit a memory that's often these are memories from childhood. Often they are memories with key persons in our lives, like our nuclear family or our childhood family. And you can, especially if they were like memories where you associated shame and guilt with them, you can revisit them, feel them, and then feel that it's okay and let it go. And that's a quick way to kind of boost already to climb a few steps. Another way is taking responsibility for and accepting where you are at right now. So that means letting go of helplessness, of complaining, blaming, judging. All these kinds of behaviors are behaviors of of powerlessness. So in the scale, the negative ones force and the positive ones are power. And so life energy is power in a way, and the higher you climb, the more powerful you are. So so helplessness, complaining, blaming, judging are all kind of symptoms of powerlessness, um, and once just accepting responsibility for one station in life, and then moving forward from there can already do a lot. Then also taking action towards a long-term goal, willingness, purpose. So finding your purpose and doing something about it every day is also a powerful boost, even if it's maybe not your main job. Maybe it's a kind of um, it's a side hustle, or it's a hobby. It doesn't have to always be something you do 24/7. You have to start somewhere, and you can start small. So even if it's like that, then just engaging in that goal will help you climb. Especially if it's a daily recurring something, you're really taking small steps towards a longer term goal. Very powerful. um, I hope someone is keeping an eye on the time, because I can go through all these, but there are different ideas here of how to climb this ladder. Another
5 minutes to go. Maybe you can take another 3-4 minutes to go through the rest of the slides.
Yeah, let me check how much. Okay, I'm almost done, so I think it's okay. So objectivism and rationality, that is that's at the lower levels. You might think that everything is conspiring against you. So finding reasons like, okay, that person didn't answer my call, but then maybe they were busy, or maybe they were in a meeting or something, they'll call me back. That's a much more rational, objective way of interpreting it, saying, oh, that person doesn't like me, and that person deliberately doesn't answer when I try to call the person. So that's another way of climbing a little bit higher, depending on where you are. So if you're anywhere below 400, that's a great way to make your experience a little bit more pleasant. Connecting to your heart and feelings and practicing forgiveness. So forgiveness is very, very powerful. And it's something we really do for ourselves, not so much for others. And that can already, if you have a long-standing grudge against someone for something, if you accept responsibility for your part in it, and then express forgiveness, and you don't even have to tell the person, you can just do it by yourself. That in itself is a very powerful way of boosting your emotional consciousness level. And finally, letting go and releasing attachments to things, people's titles. We get very hung up and very attached to certain material things, certain titles, and if we can just be without that, that attachment to things. People also get very attached to possessions and objects, and so some people hoard, or they have difficulty when they move, they have too much stuff. So all of that attachment also keeps you stuck emotionally. And finally, daily spiritual practice. The previous speaker spoke about the breathing in the morning and in the evening, meditation, going into nature, anything like that is a powerful practice to help you boost your level of consciousness, which is your emotional state, which is your level of energy. So the highest level of energy that a body can hold is 1000, and so there were some people like the Buddha, Jesus Christ, and others who reached that level. And from 500 and above, we are in 5D consciousness. And so, but anything above 250 is already a love-based emotional frequency. Anything below that is fear-based. So there are two basic emotions, love and fear. And so in terms of coaching, anything below 200 is rather more in the mental health area. It's more clinical. From 250 to 400 would be more kind of career and life coaching. And then above 500 would be more spiritual coaching. So in a nutshell, that is what I had to share today. And we had two more polls. I think we could do the last poll about the emotion, the dominant emotion. This is how you can reach me. And if we have time for one or two questions, that would be great.
Right. Let's take a few questions and then we can come back to the poll results because we have very limited time here. So, Lucy, we have a question which says, for achieving objectives, how effective are future pacing and circle of excellence? Not sure if this was mentioned in the talk today, but I'm assuming they're NLP techniques.
So I would like the future pacing and circle of excellence. I'd like to know what the person means with that. Is that an accountability group, a circle of excellence? Maybe the person can explain it in himself or herself, and then we can discuss.
Yeah. I found those are NLP techniques. So you know, in sync with raising our vibrational levels that you were talking about, I was wanting to know whether future pacing and circle of excellence also help in the process that you described.
Yeah, I think any NLP techniques really help in this process. Also the family constellation one, because it really addresses some long-term trauma that can keep us in a vibrational frequency.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. That was a wonderful session. I think we have come to the close of the session. Thank you for joining us from Rwanda and sharing about NLP practices and connecting it to emotional intelligence. So I think I think there is a mixed bag of reactions between people. There's joy, love, and someone has asked where there should be none of the above. I think at this point of time, that person is experiencing no emotions here. So I think we should add one more.
Yeah, there is also neutrality. Yeah? Then you're okay with life. You can, you're not dragged down by fear, but you're also not in the clouds. You're just
they must
okay.
be having a mixed bag. They're not having a dominant emotion at this point of time.
Yeah.
And my dominant emotion at this point of time will be anxiety and fear. I think a mixed bag of emotions I also carry now. Okay, I'm very much happy at this point of time. Lucy, thank you very much for joining us and honoring and taking us to the wonderful session on NLP and EI. This is a certification of our gratitude and appreciation for sharing insights during our virtual Emotional Intelligence Summit. Thank you from Lata and me. Thank you from Emotional Ethics and Co. and MEQ Academy. Thank you. And can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. On your name, Lucy, we have planted a tree in Karnataka, that is to the southern part of India. I will share this certificate with you. You can track the tree and its growth also. So thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.